The car rolled to a quiet spot in front of the grand mansion. Jungkook stepped out first, without a glance behind. He walked straight toward the towering front doors. The guard stationed outside lowered their heads in silent respect as he passed. Wine sat still inside the car, frozen for a moment. Then slowly she opened the door and stepped out. But her wedding gown, richly embroidered and heavy, weighed her down. She could barely move. Her legs trembled under the burden of lace and silk. She stood quietly, not knowing how to do. Suddenly a maid appeared from inside the door and approached her. "Maid, ma'am," the maid said with a respectful tone. "Please come with me. Sir asked me to assist you." Wine's eyes widened slightly. "He sent someone for me," she thought to herself, surprised. How did Jungkook know that I would not be able to walk properly in this heavy gown? She hadn't said a word. She hadn't even looked at him. Before she could finish the thought, the maid interrupted gently. "Maid, ma'am, this way, please." The maid bent slightly, lifting the train of the gown with practiced care, and guided Wyan into the mansion. The halls were vast and quiet, echoing only the distant clicks of heels and the soft rustle of fabric. Chandelier hung like glowing crown from the ceiling, but Wine barely noticed the luxury around her. She said nothing, made no eye contact with anyone. Once inside her assigned room, she slipped in quietly. The fatigue of the day began to settle over her like a thick fog. Her body ached, her mind was drowning in uncertainty. She wanted to lie down, to melt into the softness of the bed and disappear. Her eyes flicked toward the large mirror across the room. She caught a glimpse of herself, still dressed as a bride, but with eyes full of confusion and a heart caught between disbelief and fear. One point of view, I'm not alone anymore. Something unexpected has happened. I have no idea what else is waiting for me, what else is about to change in my life. The thought sent a quiet shiver down her spine. Without a word, she stepped into the washroom, slowly removing her veil, freshening up, washing the weight of the day from her face. When she returned, she felt a little lighter, thought still wrapped in the strangeness of it all. And then, knock, knock, a soft knock on the door. She tensed. Cautiously, Wine walked over and cracked the door open. It was another maid. "Maid, ma'am," she said with a bow, "it's time to rest. Sir is calling for you. From now on you are to sleep with him." Wine stared at her, stunned for a moment. Then her voice rose, clear, firm, defiant. "Wine, tell your sir I am not coming." The maid hesitated. "Maid, ma'am, if you don't go, sir will be very angry." "Wine, I don't care." One snapped, her eyes hardened. "I don't care how angry he gets." With that she shut the door, her fingers trembling just slightly on the handle. She turned away and walked slowly to the bed, slipping under the covers. Her heart was pounding again, not from fear this time, but from an overwhelming mix of exhaustion, anger, and confusion. She closed her eyes, but sleep didn't come easily. Because tonight was not just the end of the long day, it was the beginning of a life she hadn't chosen, and somewhere behind another door in that same mansion waited a man she still didn't understand. Suddenly another knock echoed through the room. Wine, already overwhelmed and irritated, shot up from her bed. This time she didn't hold back. Without checking who was at the door, she flung it open and snapped. "Wine, how many times do I have to say it? I'm not going. Tell your master to leave me alone." A pause. A deep, calm voice responded, "Jungkook, may I know why?" Wine froze. That wasn't the maid. It was Jungkook. The blood drained from her face. Her hands turned cold. A sharp dizziness spun in her head, and for a second she could not breathe, let alone speak. "Jungkook, well?" he asked, stepping inside slowly. Why won't you answer me? He moved forward with quiet intensity, Wine instinctively back away step by step until her back hit the wall. Her heart was hammering in her chest. Still, she gathered every ounce of courage and said, Wine, I'm not going. I told you once, and I'm not repeating myself. I don't need to explain anything to you. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled behind her. Jungkook's expression darkened. Irritation flickered in his eyes. Jungkook, will you come willingly, or do I have to carry you myself? He said flatly. Wine, get out of my room, she shouted, her voice rising with defiance. I said I'm not coming. That was the final straw. Jungkook stepped forward without another word and, in one swift motion, scooped her up over his shoulder. Wine, let me go, she screamed, kicking and pounding against his back. Put me down, I swear. But her protests were useless. No matter how hard she struggled, his grip didn't loosen. Jungkook carried her through the hallway and into his own bedroom. He gently lowered her onto the soft bed, then stepped back. One looked around in panic. Her eyes darted across the room. The entire space was decorated, flower, candles, soft lighting. Every detail screamed of a wedding night, of expectation. Her breath caught in her throat. Why, point of view? No, no, this can't be happening. Don't tell me he actually plans to. Her mind spiraled, panic surged through her veins like fire. Her hands began to sweat, her legs trembled. Jungkook watched her silently, eyebrows narrowing slightly. Jungkook's point of view, what's wrong with her now? He wondered. A moment ago she was full of attitude, now she looks like she was about to faint. Then he noticed the decor around them, the flowers, the candles. He understood immediately. He said nothing, only sighed and turned away, disappearing into the washroom, but that only heightened Wine's terror. One point of view, please don't come back out. Stay in there, break a leg or something. I just need time to run. She crawled onto the far side of the bed and lay down, pulling the blanket over herself. She squeezed her eyes shut, pretending to sleep, praying this night would end. A moment later, Jungkook returned. He paused at the doorway, watching her. For a moment, she looked at sleep. Without a word, she quietly lay down on his side of the bed. No sound, no touch, just silence. Time passed, but sleep refused to come. Wine lay frozen, afraid to move. Even the slightest shift might wake him. She stayed still as a statue, lightening to the rhythm of his breath. Eventually, she turned over so slightly, just enough to peek behind her. Jungkook was fast asleep, peaceful, undisturbed. One stared at him for a long moment. He ruins everyone's peace and slept like a baby himself. She turned back around and sighed quietly, staring into the darkness. The night dragged on, long, cold, and quiet. Sleep never truly came. Morning. The first light of dawn crept gently through the curtains, casting a pale glow across the room. Wine had not slept a wink the entire night. Her body was still, but her mind hadn't stopped running. As soon as it felt remotely acceptable, she slipped out of the bed quietly and left the room in a hurry. Back in her own room, she rushed into the washroom and splashed her face with cold water. The fatigue in her eyes was undeniable. After freshening up, she walked toward her wardrobe and opened it, empty. Not a single garment inside. Her face turned red with frustration. What is going on? Where are my clothes? She muttered. Don't tell me, even my clothes were moved without my permission. Without another moment's delay, she stormed into Jungkook's room once again. Marching toward the wardrobe there, she pulled the doors open, and there they were, her clothes, neatly arranged to one side, folded with perfect care. For a moment, she was stunned, then with an annoyed sigh, she quietly grabbed a set of clothes and changed. Her steps were light and quiet as she tiptoed out of the room, like a thief escaping the night. Wine made her way to the nursery. The babies were fast asleep. She let out a long, quiet breath and curled up on the sofa nearby. Within minutes, she finally surrendered to the exhaustion and drifted into sleep. The first true rest she would had in days. It didn't last long. She awoke to the gentle sound of the baby stirring. With a small smile, she got up and began tending to them, changing their diapers and feeding them with practiced hands. The presence of the children gave her a strange sense of calm, a fleeting kind of joy she didn't fully understand yet. She spent the entire day in the nursery, barely stepping out. Whenever it was time for meals, she discreetly sent the maids to the dining room, making up small excuse to avoid going to herself. The staff seemed confused, but they didn't ask questions. She managed to stay hidden in that little room, her safe haven, the entire day. Night arrived quietly. The babies were sound asleep, and the maids were there to watch over them. Left with no other choice, one finally walked back to Jungkook's room. When she entered, the room was empty. Jungkook hadn't returned yet. She quietly climbed onto the bed and pulled the blanket up to her chin, pretending to be fast asleep. Moments later, she heard the door open. Jungkook had arrived. She felt his presence fill the room, heavy and quiet. He didn't say anything. He simply freshened up and climbed into the bed beside her. For a while, he just lay there still, silent, his gaze fixed on her. He was thinking. About what? No one could say. His expression was unreadable, his thoughts a mystery locked behind his eyes. Eventually he lay down fully and closed his eyes. Soon his breathing softened. He had fallen asleep. I let out a slow breath to relief. Thank God I survived another night. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but for tonight, just tonight, she had made it through. Today, Wine is unusually high spirits. Jungkook would not be home the entire day, and that thought alone filled her with relief. She felt like a child granted unexpected freedom, roaming around the mansion with a rare lightness in her steps. Wandering through the halls, she eventually found herself in the kitchen. The headmaid glanced up and was visibly surprised by the brightening on Wine's face. "Headmaid, why so cheerful today, ma'am?" the headmaid asked with a warm smile. Wine, "Oh, nothing really," she replied casually, trying to keep her excitement hidden. The headmaid titled her head curiously. "Headmaid, why did you study? If you don't mind me asking, we don't really know much about you." Wine chuckled softly. "Wine, I graduated from Seoul National University. My father used to run a small cafe. I look after it now." "Headmaid, impressive. That means you must be quite good at cooking too." Wine smiled shyly. "Wine, I can manage a little." "Headmaid, well then, why haven't you cooked anything for our young master yet?" the headmaid asked playfully. Wine was caught off guard. Her smile froze. The expression on her face said enough, and the headmaid chuckled knowingly. "Headmaid, no excuse. You will cook something special for him tonight." "I won't take no for an answer." Wine wanted to refuse, but she found herself unable to say anything. With a reluctant note, she agreed. That evening, with help from the chefs, Wine prepared a special dish, simple yet heartfelt. Night fell, and Jungkook returned home. For the first time in 2 days, Wine sat down to eat with him. He said nothing, just began eating in his usual silent way. After a few minutes, he tasted the dish she had made. His expression didn't change. Wine lowered her gaze, her chest tightening slightly. Was it that bad? Yet he said nothing, no compliment, no acknowledgement. Wine swallowed her disappointment and continued eating quietly. When dinner was over, Jungkook got up and went upstairs without a word. The headmaid approached. "Headmaid, don't be upset, dear." The young master never says much, but if he finished the entire dish, he definitely liked it. Wine gave a small, wordless note and quietly returned to their room. That night, there was something different about the air tonight. Jungkook didn't speak. He simply lay down and closed his eyes. Wine, uncertain and uneasy, lay beside him. A few moments later, Jungkook, still deep in sleep, reached out, rested a hand on her waist, and pulled her close. Wine froze. Her heart pounded inside her chest. Was it fear or something else entirely? She could not move, could not even attempt to pull away, afraid it might wake him. Trapped in that still, vulnerable silence, she eventually drifted off to sleep. Morning. Wine awoke to the soft lighting of dawn filtering through the curtains. Jungkook was gone. She blinked, surprised. He left early today, she thought. No matter, I should head to the nursery. After quickly freshening up and having breakfast, she made her way toward the nursery, eager to be around the only ones who didn't make her heart race with confusion. One step into the nursery. The children were already awake. As soon as they saw her, they squealed with delight, their laughter ringing through the room like tiny bells. Both of them reached out with their little hands, their faces lightening up with pure joy. Wine's heart melted as she scooped them up into her arms. She hadn't realized how much they had grown. In the course of recent days, she had overlooked the subtle changes. Their necks were stronger now, and they could sit upright on their own. She spent a long, peaceful morning just playing with them, watching their curiosity bloom, and their giggles filled the room. When lunchtime came, she fed them gently. They were tired from all the excitement and fell asleep halfway through their meal, teeny heads resting on her shoulder. Smiling softly, she placed them into their beds and tucked them in. Later, in the dining room, Wine made her way to the dining room. The table was already set, but Jungkook hadn't shown up. She didn't ask where he was. He is probably cocked up in work, she told herself, and ate her meal quietly. The rest of the day passed in stillness. Evening in the garden. As the sun dripped low on the horizon, Wine wandered outside. She hadn't realized the mansion held such a beautiful garden at the back. Flowers bloomed in every color, swaying gentle in the breeze. The air was filled with bird song, and Wine felt the quiet stirring of peace in her heart. For the first time in days, her mind left light, unburdened. She walked barefoot, the earth cool beneath her feet, and gazed at the open sky as the sun set in a blaze of orange and gold. A rare smile touched her lips. For a moment, it felt like the world had paused just for her. When darkness began to settle in, she slowly made her way back inside. Late at night. It was late, much late than usual. Wine looked at the clock, puzzled. Jungkook still isn't home. Just then, she heard footsteps, heavy, uneven. Her breath caught. She didn't pretend to sleep tonight. The fear that usually wrapped around her like chains had loosened a little. The door opened. Jungkook stepped in, but something wasn't right. His walk was unsteady, his movement disjointed, his clothes were soaked through, as if he had been caught in a storm. As he came closer, she noticed more. His eyes were bloodshot, his breathing uneven, and his skin glistening with sweat. And then she noticed something else. The front of Jungkook's pants are swollen. That made her freeze in place. She didn't need anyone to explain it. Her instincts told her everything she needed to know. She began inching backward on the bed, heart reaching, mouth dry. Jungkook kept moving toward her. Her throat tightened. She could not make a sound. Jungkook climbed onto the bed slowly. Wine trembled, her limbs cold and unresponsive. He leaned closer. His voice was low, almost a whisper, but filled with a twisted familiarity. Did you miss me, baby girl?